Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Coco Bandicoot here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series, while we're still playing through Klonoa Daughter Phantomile for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we've beaten the final boss in the game, which appears to be Naha Tube, to be more specifically, in Klonoa Daughter Phantomile. Now, despite the fact I did die occasionally, specifically on the third and final phase, mainly because of hesitation, but apart from those side of things though, we did somehow accomplish that particular final boss no problem, after experiencing not only, well, the original PlayStation 1 version, but also with the Wii version as well. So generally speaking, we did that no problem, despite with the third and final phase. So, anyways, so today for this video is about the fact that this might actually be the finale portion of Klonoa Daughter Phantomile throughout the forms of the Phantasy Reverie series compilation. Because of this though, we're about to show you guys not only the extra vision as we did somehow unlocked from earlier, but also, just like the forms of how it does on the Wii version of Klonoa Daughter Phantomile, we are able to actually experience the other two modes, as you can tell, from that specifically for those other two red spots, which there are Movie Viewer and Time Attack mode. However, here's the catch though, is about the fact that as you can tell, there aren't any other bonuses in here either. Like for instance, remember I mentioned about this before, there is no Character Museum mode, or especially noticeable there is no Reverse mode, and heck, even especially noticeable there is no alternative costumes you can wear throughout the course of this remaster. So because of that though, I'm a little bit bumped up about that, which I think suffice to say that those specific additional costumes were locked out behind DLC, which I was originally trying to show you guys for this, but unfortunately though, due to time constraints, we just not able to actually stick up with the forms of not to show those. So, either way, so for the purpose of the forms of the finale portion of Klonoa Daughter Phantomile in Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series, as you can tell, we're about to begin the true final stage in the game, which as a result we now ended up in the extra vision. So because of that though, after all, Blue's Tower has been fully completed, so it's our job to able to make our way to the top, so we can able to exponentially try to go for the ultimate challenge ahead. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that as far as the extra vision is concerned, this is by far the toughest level in the game, mainly because no matter what though, there's a lot of difficult platforming, and if you really want to get out of your way to able to actually gather every single crystals in this level, well, best of luck I guess, because for me, I'm probably gonna able to skip a good chunks of the forms of those crystals to obtain, because they're just there for the sake of bragging rights, and especially noticeable about the fact that, well, they don't really do much for the sake of the forms of not only for achievements, but also with the forms of trophies as well. So I've honestly have no idea why they just couldn't be bothered able to actually bring extra hard challenges when it comes to obtaining trophies and achievements respectively. So I'm guessing that seems to be the case or something. So either way, so anywho though, so yeah, a few things I want to explain for this point today is that, well, today's date of course is the 7th of March today, in some cases in 2024 today, and for those of you who lived in America, well, it seems very obvious if you know exactly what I'm about to say. Tomorrow, Kung Fu Panda 4 is going to be releasing on the cinemas tomorrow for the American version. So because of that though, now as far as I'm aware, that we've only got about exactly 3 weeks left until the UK version of Kung Fu Panda 4 will be releasing on the cinemas on a big screen. So I'm still pretty excited about that, especially concerning for the fact that after all it's been about almost like 8 years ago since the third entry in the series, so it feels like at this point in time that we've almost gone to the point about the fact that when it comes to DreamWorks franchise of movies, that after all, that Shrek has already got 4 films, and as far as Madagascar films, as far as I'm concerned, technically they have like 3, main Madagascar movies, and in addition with the films of the Penguins of Madagascar movie as well. So that technically counts as 4 movies for that particular franchise. So it's now, you know, Kung Fu Panda's turn, able to actually get ourselves the 4 movie treatment. So, you know, as far as I'm aware, I highly doubt about the fact that I don't think it's not too much of a surprise that we might able to actually get ourselves yet another Trolls movie in the future, which as a result, it's kind of difficult to tell, because apart from the fact I don't usually watch too much of Trolls movies that much, because obviously they're just not my cup of tea. So that's as far as I was expecting to mention about this. So, I mean, more power to you guys if you do manage to able to enjoy these kinds of films. I don't, because obviously they're just not my kind of thing, especially concerning for the fact that, well, I just really cannot really care for it too much. So, but that's just me, I'm biased I guess, so either way. Now, as far as I'm usually concerned with this as well, is about the fact that unfortunately though, we did somehow manage to able to receive some very unfortunate news just happened, which as a result, thanks to the forms of someone else out there who managed able to send me a comment during the forms within about 2 days ago roughly, which as a result, yes, unfortunately though, similar to the forms of how it does it in not only from the likes of in Mario Kart Tour, I think it's what it says anyway, but also, according to the forms of what he says also, that this is also applies to the forms of Crash Team Racing Nitro Field as well. And as it turns out, it's about the fact that recently, Crash Team Rumble has recently ended its content just recently, since in 4th of March. So, yeah, this might be a little bit of a missed opportunity right here, especially no matter what though, is about the fact that that game never saw the release on the Nintendo Switch. So, basically though, is about the fact that, well, as a result, I did miss a whole bunch of the specific stuff that's been going on in regards to the forms of Crash Team Rumble, because I will say this right now, Crash Team Rumble is pretty disappointing, especially because there was no single player campaign, and in addition to that, the entire gameplay itself, it just goes completely in online only. So that's a real shame to me, because as far as that particular game is concerned, it did give me some high expectations, but instead, that as it turns out, there was no Nintendo Switch release, and on top of that, there was no way that we can't able to experience the game offline, because obviously it's online exclusive. So because of that, feels very similar to the forms of how it does it for, let's just say, Super Mario Bros. 35. Back in 2020, despite the fact that that game is usually non-playable anymore, just because, you know what I mean, with the stupid limited time offering. So that's besides the point. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer though, especially concerning for the fact that everyone else out there did have some high expectations to see what some new content they'll bring in regards to the forms of Crash Team Rumble, because as far as I'm usually concerned, I don't think it's possible for me to able to get the game anymore now, clearly because of how the fact that, aside from the lack of Nintendo Switch release, when it comes to the forms of that particular version of Crash Team Rumble, I guess that makes it pretty obvious about the fact that I just have no idea why that particular game just completely ignored its Switch release, unlike the ones how it does it for Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, alongside with the forms of Crash Team Racing Nitro Field, and especially noticeable with Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, that those 3 games do have the Switch version release, because that's the reason why I attempt to play those games on the go at the very least, so no need to worry about the forms of stuck indoors all day. And generally speaking though, there is also technically the PC Steam Deck version, but I don't usually count that personally, just because no matter what though, what I've noticed from the start is that some people seem to say that maybe Steam Deck was considerably a flop system or something. Well, I don't know about you, because I haven't exactly owned one for myself, you see, mainly because no matter what though, I'm more into the forms of Nintendo Switch as much as the next guy, because relatively speaking though, that's the reason why that the Nintendo Switch is a massive success, especially concerning after the events of this particular flopped Wii U to begin with. So yeah, you get the suggestions for what I was going to be expected saying for this point right there. So and of course, like most of any other moments when it comes to likely if you're going for tough levels, as you can tell, every time whenever you go into a new room, obviously it just grants you to give you a ton of extra lives, especially you really don't want to get a game over during that specific run, because otherwise, if you get a game over, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the level. Although, assuming if you really want to just be very cautious with this, because again, if you dare touch the lava right here, you die automatically. So because of that though, and of course the extra lives does not respawn at all, just like the forms of how it does it from not only from the likes of Sonic Adventure, but also with Sonic Adventure 2, and especially noticeable for Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Or some people call it Sonic Adventure 3. Well, that was originally attempted, but I'm sure enough about the fact that Maxi will mention more about it if he goes back onto Shadow Story in Sonic 06, until by that time until tomorrow is actually going to be on the case. So, but either way, oh, and speaking of which though, is that from what I've heard at this point in time, recently, Toys for Bob is now in a part of the forms of the ND Studio. So that seems out of nowhere, or that just comes out of nowhere, personally speaking though, because I almost assume about the fact that Toys for Bob is actually doing quite well in regards to the forms of the actual one of those specific publishers or developers, as far as I'm aware, that they are responsible for able to be made not only the Nintendo Switch version of Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, but also with the forms of Nitro Field as Crash Team Racing. Wait. No, that can't be right, because I was thinking about something else. Because, relatively speaking of, what I've also heard, they also did make Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam for the PlayStation 2, including the Nintendo Wii versions. So, relatively speaking of, am I able to actually give that game a bit of a chance? Well, assuming, of course, no matter what, though, I need to think of something else when it comes to likely spending on something at this point in time. Because, well, what I've noticed also is about the fact that when it comes to like anything else that's been going on at the moment, well, as far as you can definitely tell right from the start here and there, is that by that time until specifically on Sunday, this coming Sunday I should say, not only were able to actually grant us to able to actually celebrate the Mother's Day, but it's also worth noting for us that on the 10th of March, on Sunday, that one marks the Happy Mario Day, which as a result, it might actually give us some high expectations. Well, I was really hoping about the fact that there was actually yet another rumor has been going on at this point, but this time around though, we actually got ourselves to returning Pyro as the Nintendo leaker, and he suggests about the fact that maybe it's a possibility that we might able to actually see, well, a actual proper news update in regards to the forms of not only Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, but also, most importantly, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake on the Switch. So, yeah, although don't get your hopes up just yet though, because obviously it's just a rumor of course, which then again, sometimes I don't trust rumors and leaks anymore, so generally speaking though, I got nothing else to say about this, apart from the fact that, well, obviously it's just for a coincidence, I suppose. So, anyway, so we've met again with the forms of Blue, and as well as Lavis right here, and she did say about the fact that she was incredibly sorry, that I don't think it's possible that she's gonna hang around with Blue for the sake of time, despite the fact that Blue was so desperately in love with Lavis. So, either way, and there's also another thing I would like to mention about this as well. Yes, just like the forms of how it does it in 2020, 2021, 2022, as well as 2023, which was last year, by the way. Obviously, we might still able to have ourselves some more sets for the Lego Super Mario sets during at some point in the future. So I'm not exactly sure what sets they're able to be revealed exactly, but I'm sure enough though we'll mention more about it if we get on to the next game of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series, which is of course Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, which I'm super excited about, because obviously no matter what though, it's going to be a lot more grander than before. So generally speaking though, that's as far as I can usually say about this, I guess. So, and of course, just like the ones and how it does on the PlayStation version, including the Wii version, well, it's usually able to be completely done with the forms of the extra vision. Well, obviously, something tells me we will be able to unlock one of those modes we can able to interact with, like the music player, hosted by Lavis herself. So, yeah, that's as far as we can able to describe about the forms of extra vision in general. It is definitely a little bit difficult if you really want to get out of your way to able to actually go for a true 100% experience by you know, getting every single crystals, then by all means, good luck, because obviously you will lose a bunch of lives if you do not been hesitating all that well. So, and as it turns out, we actually did not get any of those gold medals in the extra vision, or the silver medals for that part, because something tells me is that, I have no idea why, but unlike the Wii version, as soon as you're able to complete extra vision for the first time, you do realize about the fact that normally on the Wii version, it does manage to show you the blue space, which means you cleared the stage. However, on the remaster remake on the Nintendo Switch, along with the PS4 version, etc., for some reason the actual color spacing was kept in red, so not exactly sure why that seems to be the case. But either way, so let's go in and interact with the forms of the music player. So of course, just like last time, you can able to actually listen to the good old soundtrack in this game once again, except this time is about the fact that, well, there's no remastered incarnations for certain music or anything, so it's just about the fact that they're all played out exactly like the forms of the previous two versions, so yeah, nothing different from there. But you might also realize about the fact that the actual the menu style, as you can tell, it's basically match up to the exact same style as the original PlayStation 1 version, except the fact that obviously Luigi's character model is now in 3D instead of the actual 2D sprites. So yeah, that might be seems a little bit more legitimate when it comes to likely if you complete, you know, certain aspects in mind. So but, of course, we're not exactly done with this particular portion of this just yet, though, like I said earlier, because, like what the forms of how it does on the Wii version, we'll show off some other modes in general. Like, for instance, there is the movie viewer, which basically this allows you to able to re-watch that specific cutscenes from the beginning all the way to the end. The only noticeable exception to this is obviously Blue's Tower, specifically in Extra Vision, so I've honestly have no idea why that particular cutscene selection was not included on the movie viewer. So, relatively speaking, if you really want to re-watch those specific cutscenes again, then obviously, by all means, you can able to do that. So, however, there's one little thing you might able to realize about something. Unlike the Wii version that is actually being hosted by the forms of one of those NPCs, usually depending on what specific location you go into. In this remaster this time around, though, you simply navigate them by simply going from menu to menu, and there is no unique backgrounds or anything else like that. It's just basically, it's like, you go for a next set of pages or what have you, so yeah, nothing else to add. So, anyways, the next thing we'll show off is the time attack, where similar to the forms of how it does on the Wii version, you can able to have a rematch with the forms of certain boss fights, ranging from Rango Lungo all the way up to Naha Tomb. So, however though, I'm actually going to be showing off one of those bosses in particular, just to show you how time attack works. So basically, you have to able to compete for time, and that's about it basically. No online leaderboards though, sadly, but that's just mainly because, as a matter of fact, that potentially speaking about the fact that it's kind of weird that Klonoa never actually gets to experience online stuff, at least specifically around this time. So, but either way though, I suppose beggars can't be choosers, I guess. They're just there for likely just trying to able to take care of these boss fights, except with the time limit. So, but yeah, as a matter of fact for this point, folks, is that in addition with the forms you can able to actually experience extra vision, there's also the third difficulty unlockable thing you're able to experience. And as it turns out, we did somehow recently unlocked hard mode, where basically that is about the fact that I think we'll pretty much have to demonstrate for one of those levels in hard mode, just to show you guys of how hard mode actually plays out to be. So, relatively speaking, once you defeat the boss, it actually shows us the amount of time you did somehow have for that particular boss fight. So, yeah, I don't feel like trying to able to actually go for those boss fights again, just because we've already experienced those, basically. So, either way, I suppose that's all there is to really say about this, I guess. Although, then again, there is no reverse mode, or especially noticeable, there is no costume changes menu, or especially noticeable, there is no character viewer mode, specifically the character museum that you can able to look up on specific character models and all that stuff, which is a bit of a shame, but again, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So anyways, let's show off the last thing in Klonoa Daughter Phantomile portion of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series. And as you can see, we've now unlocked hard mode, where basically as you can see, the entire status report, it plays very similar to normal mode, except the fact that, as you can tell, we start the game off as 1 life, and in addition to that, we only have 1 heart, and also the actual damage input has been reduced into full 1. So, relatively speaking we'll demonstrate onto Vision 1-1, so you can see what I mean if we get onto the actual proper experience on hard difficulty, despite the fact I don't think it's possible we can able to actually go for full hardcore mode. So anyways, there's also another thing I want to show off, is that you can able to actually fast forward specific cutscenes this time around by pressing the R button, or if you want to skip the cutscene entirely, you simply have to hold down the plus button, so that way you can able to skip the cutscene entirely, which means also includes several cutscene segments. So, whilst unlike the original PlayStation 1 version, including the Wii version, they have to keep on like skipping certain cutscene segments. So, yeah, as a result, I'm glad that feature was actually being implemented. So, but that's besides the point. So yeah, this is how hard mode plays out to be. Again, you only have 1 heart, and if you did manage to able to get hit, not just by the forms of certain enemies, but also hazards like this for instance, you die automatically. So yeah, it's kind of like the equivalent to Crash Bandicoot basically, with the lack of Uka Uka mask, or to be more specifically, Aku Aku mask. So, generally speaking, it's about the fact that you probably get the idea of how the hard mode plays out to be. If you really want to be up for the challenge, then by all means you can able to actually do that. But just like the forms of how it does it, whenever you're trying to able to get all 150 crystals, they're just the forms of the actual bragging rights, I suppose. So, generally speaking, yeah, there's a lot of replayability you can able to actually experience with this, obviously. So because of that though, and I think, if I recall correctly, once we get into the forms of Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, then you do realize about the fact that we only get to able to start the game off as in either easy or normal mode. So generally speaking, I don't think there's a way we can able to unlock hard mode for the time being, until we beaten the game for the first time. So, and how the heck did I just somehow die by the exact same enemy right there? Well, at least thankfully we've got the checkpoint right there, so I guess that's something. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that there's also one thing I would classify, is that yes, the wind bullet, I should say, it plays pretty similar to the forms of how it does it on normal mode, so there's nothing really changes when it comes to likely between normal mode and hard mode. The only noticeable changes is of course how much hearts you have, and also the actual damage output. So, oh boy, if you're trying to deal with the final boss encounter, well, good luck with that, by the way. In addition with the forms of the extra vision as well, just because no matter what though, is about the fact that you're seriously gonna get wrecked a lot. And I think, unlike the Wii version, specifically with the reverse mode, there was actually that little special obstacle course you can able to participating for, that basically though you can able to actually get one of those medals you can able to get. So, I don't think it's possible on the remake this time around, or specifically the remaster of any sorts. So, yeah, it's a bit of a bummer though about the fact that, like I said earlier, that most of the contents were cut on this remaster compared to the Wii version. Although, despite the fact that on the Wii version, you do have the ability to able to have, you know, changing voices between English voice acting to Phantomile language, and on top of that, so many controller options when it comes to the Wii version, like the Wii Mode Sideways or Wii Mode to Nunchuck combo, and especially noticeable with the Wii Classic controller and even with the Nintendo GameCube controller. I'm sure it's still possible you can able to actually do with multiple controller combinations when it comes to the Switch version specifically, like you can either play the game as in not only Joy-Cons paired, but also with Joy-Cons separately as in horizontal position, and on top of that, the glorious Switch Pro controller, because I still manage to use that a lot for the majority of the forms of certain Nintendo Switch games, excluding with the forms of not only Super Mario Party, but also with the forms of WarioWare Move It. So, yeah, generally speaking, I was about the fact that I was very still surprised about the fact that we've almost pretty much done when it comes to the majority of the Wario series of games, because as far as I'm aware, we still need to get around on doing Wario Land, the Shake Dimension at some point, and on top of that, as far as WarioWare is concerned, obviously we've already done Get It Together, so all it needs left now is just Move It, and that's basically all there is to really say about that, so... But yeah, that's as far as we can able to show off in terms of some extra content when it comes to likely the remastered version of Klonoa Daughter Phantomile on the likes of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series, but I still managed to enjoy the first game regardless, especially concerning for the fact I still love the storytelling, and especially noticeable the music is so good. And even the graphics itself looks a lot more detailed this time around, as opposed to somewhat of a darker, dreamy tone on the Wii version, which I don't know about you, because I'm not a big fan of the forms of those grey, kind of dark tones for the sake of the forms of the graphics on the Wii version. So, yeah, that's as far as saying goes. That's as far as we can able to show off some extras in Klonoa Daughter Phantomile on Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series up to this point. And straight to the point is that we've now on to the halfway point in terms of this particular duology compilation. So, yeah, one game down and only one game left, which, as a result, we are now going to be jump right into the second game, which, as a result, suffice to say, I think we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series, is that we're going to be now jumping right into Klonoa 2, Lunity's Veil, except this time in gorgeous HD graphics, and on top of that, it'll be a grand adventure once again. So, yeah, I hope you guys may be looking forward to it though, so I will see you guys until next Tuesday. Later, fellas.